Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Sanj, and in this video I wanted to show you how you can sell a service like social posting to clients for anywhere up to $500 a month, okay? I know this because I'm doing this, I've seen other people do it, I've seen other agencies talk about it on their Twitter, on their news channels and YouTube videos, so it's definitely possible, right? And what's great about this system is that it's completely automated. The only thing you need for an input is the actual content itself, and I'll show you how you can build the entire thing, okay? So before I get started, you know the drill. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notifications off so that you get an update when I drop the next video, okay? So let's just dive right in. So you can see that I'm inside of N8N, and the workflow has been split into three parts, okay? So the first part is the input. Where are we going to get the content from to basically auto post for us, okay? The second part is the configuration, because there are some configuration points that we need to handle before we can start the automations, okay? And then the last section, the last part of the workflow is the go live, okay? And you can see that I basically connected all 9 social media platforms, okay? And that's the beauty of Blatato, right? So Blatato is the application that I'm going to be using to basically automate this, and I'll show you exactly how to set all this up because we're going to do a live build on this video. But Blatato is the only application that I found, that's the only SaaS tool that can basically auto post to all 9 social media platforms, okay? Or certainly the most popular platforms that you can think of, okay? And then the last part is it will update the sheet. It'll update the sheet to say that the content has been published, okay? So for this example, I'm going to use the Mayan civilization point of view videos that I created in a previous video, okay? So if you haven't seen this video, go back to the point of view video where I use N8N to create faceless point of view AI videos, okay? And it's a really popular video, okay? So have a look at that one as well. So in that sheet, what I did was I created point of view videos using like the Mayan civilization, okay? So I'm gonna use this because I've already got a couple of videos in here. So you need some kind of sheet that looks like this, okay? And you can actually do Google Drive in here as well if you wanted to. So it doesn't have to be stored on a cloud. It can actually be your own personal Google Drive or Dropbox. You can actually do it that way, but I'm gonna use this because I've already created the content. So I'm in a new workflow and we're gonna start the build together, okay? So the first node that you want is the trigger. So find schedule trigger, and I'm not gonna go through this because it's very self-explanatory, but you can set this up exactly however way you want. You can set up the intervals, the date between the triggers, hour, minute, etc., okay? So very straightforward. The next one you want is a Google Sheets node, and you're gonna want to get the get rows in sheet, okay? And make sure you create an account for this, so you connect it up to your correct G Suite or Gmail account. And then the sheet within resources is going to be an operations get rows. And then for this, I'm just going to choose the Mayan civilization video that I'm using. And then for the sheet, it should be the correct sheet name. So for me, it's the same, okay? And then if I go back into the original build, I'll show you what we're doing here, okay? So we're going to basically look for the column that says publish to publish, okay? So if I go back to the sheet, it's looking at column F here, okay? Because this is the rows that we want to focus on. Right, the columns we want to focus on, because this is everything else is done here. We just want to publish whatever is set to publish. Okay, so what we want to do is add a filter. The column is going to be publish or whatever the similar column is on yours, and then the trigger, the filter is going to be to publish, right? Because if you go back to my sheet, that's what I've used. Okay, so I've got 3 statuses here. I've got to publish, skip, and done. So once this automation is done, once the automation is complete, you'll see that the last module, which is a Google Sheets module, this one here, will actually update it to done. And you'll see that once it's all running, okay? I think there's one more thing we need to do in here. And that's to return the first matching rows, okay? Otherwise, it's just gonna keep running forever. So if I go back into the build, add an option, return first matching rows, and then we want to check that and then just rename this, okay? So I'm just gonna call this one grab data. Right, make sure you test the step so that it pulls all the fields across, okay? And that's the first part done. So the second part of the automation is what I call configuration, and we're going to use 2 nodes for that. The first one is a set IDs, and we're going to need to get the account IDs for each of the platforms, okay? And I'll show you how to set that up with JSON. The second node is a HTTP request, and this is going to trigger the API, the endpoint inside of Platato, so we can basically paste the content that comes off the Google Sheet, okay? So heading back over to our workflow, we're just going to bring up an edit fields module, and then instead of manual mapping, we're going to use JSON for this, okay? And then we're just going to call this one set Platato IDs, and then just remove this JSON, and then I'm going to copy and paste it from here. So I've already got it set up. Let's just bring up the expressions, and then so basically this is just JSON to assign the account IDs to each of the platforms they're going to use. Okay, now you don't have to use all of these platforms. I'm just showing you because this is what's possible inside of Platato. They do actually support all 9 of these social media platforms. I mean, I only use Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, right? That's pretty much what I use, and probably TikTok, right? Because you can repurpose your Instagram reels. But I've included all of these, and I'll show you how you're going to get these IDs. So just copy that over back to the JSON, paste that. Now, everything here can be obtained from inside of your Platato account, except for the Princess board ID. I'll show you how you get that, okay? So just save that in there, and then make sure you test a step. And then the next one is going to be the HTTP request. So this is to configure Platato, right? To make sure that we get the correct URL for the video from the Google Sheets, okay? So this one is going to be configure Platato. Again, I need to get a few things from there, so it's going to be a post as opposed to get, because post means that we're going to send it from NA to N over to their servers, okay? So I'm just going to come out of this and grab some URLs. So the first one is going to be the URL here. This is the endpoint that we're going to trigger, which is media. Right, so let's copy that, post that, and then paste it here. So this just means that we're going to send the URL, our content, over to Platato, right, before it can post it to these relevant social media platforms. Okay, and we're going to want headers. So first thing we want to do is get the Platato header, right? So toggle this on, and then paste this here. So it's Platato-API-key. Take a note of the capitalization. This is not capitalized, and that's quite important. And the next thing I want to get is the Platato API key, and I'll show you how to get that. So I'm just going to paste that here. So we're going to expressions, you can see that. Okay, and then for the parameter, you want to toggle send body, and it's going to be JSON. And we're just going to grab the content from the actual final version. So basically what that means is that's going to be this column here, G. Okay, we're going to grab this here. That's all we're doing. Okay, so come out of this. And the reason the body parameter is URL, because it's saved as a URL on the sheet. Okay, so we're going to save that. We're going to use what I set this to. Yeah, body user fields below, which is this, and then this one's just going to be URL, and then the value is just going to be that column here. Okay, so you can see if I go back to the original, it's just a mapped field from grab content, which is a previous node, and I'm getting the final version, which is column G of the sheet. That's all that means. I haven't run it here, that's why you're not seeing anything, but make sure you configure this and test each step. Okay, and that's the second part of the workflow done. Before I move on to the last part of the automation, which is go live, I want to show you how you can get these IDs. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is head over to Platato. They have a 7-day free trial, so test it out. And then what you want to do is you basically just want to connect all of your social media accounts inside of this section here. Okay, so just go over to settings, and it'll bring you to this page. And then you just want to connect it all up here. So you can see here, these are some of my accounts. Some of these I don't actually use. I just created these accounts for the sake of this video. Okay, so you can see that I'm connected here, and this is where you get the account ID. Okay, so if you go back into the workflow here, this code here, the JSON, you see these codes here, it's coming from this. Once you copy this and paste it here. Okay, so most of it is pretty straightforward. Just a couple of issues. not really issues, but just kind of like FYIs. So if I can find it, yeah. So Facebook has two IDs. Okay, the first one is your own profile, and the second one is for the page. Okay, so for the page, I've just put it into the Automation Kings, just created it for the purposes of this example, and for the sake of Pinterest, you need to get the board ID. Okay, but they don't make it easy to get the board ID, so I'll show you another way to do that. The third and last part of the automation is the go live section, and these are just 9 HTTP nodes. Okay, so you just have to create one, and you can more or less copy and paste it and just change a couple of bits and pieces in there, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so before I get started, I just want to show you how you can get the API key, because we're going to need the API key to trigger Blatato. Okay, because we're basically sending the content to Blatato. Blatato's posting it for us. Okay, so if you head over to Blatato, your dashboard, click on settings, and then go down to the bottom here, and then just copy the API key. Okay, that's what we're going to need. So let's head over to the build. I'm just going to bring up the HTTP request. I'm going to call it post to Instagram just to keep it consistent. And then these are all posts, okay, because we're sending it from the request from NA to N to the servers at Blatato. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the URL, the correct endpoint, which is this one here, /posts. Let's paste. And then for the send headers, we're going to want to copy this here. Okay, so this is always going to be the same, Blatato-API-key, and keep in mind the capitalization or the lack of capitalization. The value is just going to be your API key, so just grab that from your dashboard inside the Blatato. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to toggle send body, which is JSON, and then you're going to use a specific JSON in the body. Okay, so head back over, send body, we're going to use JSON, and then we're going to copy this code here. Okay, so what this does is this is JSON, and the target is Instagram because we're creating the Instagram node on NA10 or inside NA10, and then for this part it's just a field, right? So this is just grabbing the content from the grab content node, which I created earlier, and it's just the captions. Okay, so if I refresh your memory, inside of the sheet, it's just column C here. Okay, that's all it's doing. The media URL is always going to be the same, which is this URL here, which is the one that we need to configure. So the way Blatato works is you've got to send the content into their kind of cloud database, and then from there they post it to wherever you're connected to. Okay, so this is the URL, the Blatato URL. So saved, you can see it's saved into their database, which is this. That URL will never change. And then for the account ID, it has to be Instagram, right? Because we're posting to Instagram, so it's going to take it from the set Blatato IDs node, right? Which is returning the correct IDs, and for Instagram it's 1324. That's all you need to do. Okay, so we're just going to copy this. And then I'm just going to go into expressions so you can see it, open this up, paste this here, and make sure you run it, and then you'll see everything correctly. Okay, so I'm going to move this up a bit, just going to fit it all in, and then we're just going to do the same again. Okay, so we're just going to duplicate this. I'm going to move this here, somewhere along those lines, connect it up, just make sure it's level. Okay, and this time we're going to go to the original and see what do we do this time. So we're going to use YouTube. Okay, so this time we're going to post it to YouTube. Everything's going to stay the same, okay, except the body of the JSON is going to change, because remember we need to edit the JSON so that it's posted to YouTube, and there are certain parameters that are a little bit different, right? So for example, inside of YouTube you can actually change the privacy status, right? So I always recommend that you do it to unlisted, have a human in the loop step, somebody check it, and then you can always publish it, right? So we're just going to copy this, head back over here. Remember to change the name, so let's change this to YouTube, right? And then everything stays the same, just go into here, and we're going to change this now to YouTube. That's it, right? So it's going to grab this time ideas, right? Because you get a bit more room in the actual title with YouTube. Okay, so instead of the caption, I'm going to take the ideas. So point of view, you are a mind scribe recording a history on a codex. Okay, so if I go back to the original sheet, it's going to be this column here that's going to take it from. right? And obviously make sure you test the step. And yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. So that one's done. The next one we're gonna do is gonna be, let's have a look at the original. Just come out of this. We're gonna do post to X Twitter. Okay, so same again. I'm just gonna duplicate this one, move it down a bit. Maybe just move this up, line it up a bit more. Copy, link this up, and then going back to the original, I'm just gonna take the JSON code. Right, so head over to the JSON body, and this time I'm going to copy this, and all this means is now we've changed the JSON to target Twitter. This time it's going to grab the captions from the grab content node, because you have a limit, right? Like each platform has their own text limit. So based on that, just kind of go, switch between ideas and captions. The URL is always going to be the same. It's going to be the database, Platato.io, storage, location, but this time the account ID is going to be Twitter X. Okay, so if I go into my set IDs node, it's this one here, so it's 1698. So I don't know why that one's coming up different. I think I've reconnected again. Let me just double check. So let me just make sure I do this correct. I think I disconnected it and I reconnected it again. So let me just come out of this. I'll go to the IDs. Let me just make sure it's correct. Test the step. Okay, I think I reconnected it and disconnected it, so yeah, that's fine. And then we're just gonna copy and paste this over to the build. So let's just rename this to X Twitter, rename. And then remember to just paste the correct JSON. Okay, so now this is the Twitter correct JSON, and that one's done. We can check that off, okay? So now we want to move over this side. We're going to duplicate this one. All right, we're going to move over here. We're going to connect it up from the Platato module. So what's the next one on the list? This one is TikTok. Okay, so I'm going to copy the TikTok code. So there's a few more parameters here, okay? So is this your brand? False, is it disabled duet? I don't know what that is. Something to do with duets inside of the settings. Privacy level, public to everyone. The only one that you have to really worry about is it AI generated, right? So I'm creating AI generated content, so for me it's true. If it's not, you're creating your own content or your client's content, just set that to false, right? So again, everything else will stay the same. For the content, I'm gonna use the captions, okay, which is this here. The media URLs is going to stay the same. Okay, and then for the account ID, we just make sure that it's set to TikTok 1698. Okay, so let's just change this up. We're going to say post to TikTok, rename that, and then we're going to copy. We're going to delete this and paste what we have here. Okay, and that's it. That's that one done. Let me tick that one off. So let's duplicate this. Let's line it up. I don't want to do that. Let's line it up here. And then we're going to connect it to the previous Platato node, like so. And then we'll go back to the original, and then let's just see what's next. Okay, so the next one is Facebook. So I'm going to copy the code, paste it here. I'm going to change this to Facebook, rename that, copy this, just do a confirmation inside of here just to make sure everything's okay. And that's another one checked off the list. Okay, so we're going to copy and duplicate the node. So about halfway there, probably more than halfway, and then we're just going to connect it up to the previous Platato node. Okay. And then let's see which one it was this time. So we've done Facebook, now it's Threads. Okay, so let's just copy the code for Threads. And again, you can see this one has different parameters based on the platform. They've all got different requirements. So we're just going to rename this one to Threads. I mean, I don't use Threads. I just put it on here as an example. I don't use Pinterest. I don't use Blue Sky, but they are all, acceptable, and you can actually post to them using Platato. Okay. So yeah, that one's done. And then we're on the last 3. So let's just duplicate this. We're gonna move it over here, line it up, and then connect it up to the Potato node, like so. And let's just see which one it is. So let's just head back here. This one is gonna be LinkedIn. So let's just copy the LinkedIn body JSON. Have a quick confirmation, make sure it's all okay. We're gonna go back into the build, rename this to post to LinkedIn, rename. And we're gonna copy this, delete, and paste the LinkedIn code, okay? And always remember to test a step. So the second to last one is gonna be this one here. So let's just line that up. We're gonna connect it up again. And let's just see which one that is. So this one is Blue Sky. So let me just get the JSON body code. I'm gonna rename it inside of this. So this one was Blue Sky, rename, and then I'm gonna copy this, delete, paste the Blue Sky code. Just do a confirmation, make sure everything's okay. Test a step, and then you can move on to the last one. Okay, so we're gonna duplicate that. We're going to connect it up here. And this one is Pinterest. So let me just rename this one to Pinterest. And then I'm just gonna grab the code, the JSON body code for Pinterest. And I'll show you how you get the ID, the board ID for Pinterest as well. So I'm gonna copy that because for this one you need the board ID inside of Pinterest, right? It's not the profile ID. So I'm just gonna go inside of here, copy this, paste it here. And then, so if I go back to the original, I've already got my board ID, okay? So if I go to the set potato IDs, you can see here that I've got the Pinterest board ID, okay? So how do I find that? So if you head over to Pinterest, so I've just created a test account for this. I don't want to authorize this, I've already done that. So let me just get rid of this URL. And then go to your profile. And I'm just gonna refresh this. And then you want to go to right click, inspect. Okay, head over to network. And then you might need to refresh it again. Okay, so just click on refresh and then just type in ID. To type in ID, click inside of here. I don't want to do that. And then you want to go into this code here where it says response, okay? And it's typically the ID field, right? Not this one. So where it says client context, it's usually this one here, right? Because this is the name of my board that I've created and it's got all the other content here, okay? So just grab this one here, go back into the set potato IDs, the edit fields node, and then paste it where you see the Pinterest board ID field. Paste it in there. Okay. And then the last one you want to build is this one here, the update sheet. Okay. Because what that's going to do is once this is posted, it's going to change the status from to published to done. And the reason you're going to do that is because once you finish this one, on the next cycle, you don't want to publish the same content again, right? Like if you're doing this for your own business or for your clients, you don't want to keep posting the same content because first of all, it doesn't look very professional on you. Second of all, you're probably going to get banned by the platforms because I'm pretty sure that posting duplicate content is a violation of their terms of service. Okay, so you want to make sure that you remove this from the next cycle. And to do that, you just want to change this to done. Okay, so that's what this node does. Okay, and it's just an update row. So if we go back into the last step, the last node, it's going to be, if I can spell, update Google Sheets, and then it's an update row in Sheet, right? So make sure you connect it up, and I'm going to make sure I connect it up to the correct sheet and document. Okay. And then for here, the way you set it up is you want to match the column mode, right? Because that's what we're going to use. We're going to use the ID column. Okay, so we're going to use ID, right? And then you want to copy the ID from the fields here, okay? Because I haven't run it, so I'll run it before I finish this video, but you'll see that there's a, if I go back to the overview, inside of here, right, there's an ID field. I'll show you. So if I click inside of here, you can see that there's the ID field, right? That's what we're grabbing. So I'm gonna put that here. Okay, so it references the correct row. And then for publish, we wanna change this to done, right? And then that's gonna basically select this status here, and that's it. Okay, before we finish this, you wanna make sure that you connect it up to the correct node, which is this one here, right? And that's about it. And that's the automation done here. And then obviously you can add sticky notes, which is what I've done. So if you go to right click, add sticky note, you can add sticky notes, and then it'll look something like this. Okay, so I'm gonna run this automation, come back and show you exactly what it looks like inside of Blatato. So you can see that the automation is complete. The green ticks are always a good sign. And before I show you the content, I want to go back into the Google Sheet, and you can see that once it's published, the first row that says to publish, it will then update it to done. Okay, and it's actually published this final version, this video here. Okay, so if I head back into Blatato, you can see if you go into publish post, which is on the left hand side here, it will show you all the platforms that have been successful. Okay, and if you click on the post URL here, this one will take you to Threads, and you can see this is the video, and the next one is Facebook. So I'll show you that. I'll show you 3, and I'll show you what to do if it doesn't work, if it fails. Okay. And this is the one on Twitter. Okay. So it works for the most part. There were some that failed, and I'll show you how to fix that. So basically, it didn't fail because the automation failed, right? The automation works. The problem is that some of these platforms have very specific requirements for videos. As some of them, like TikTok, certainly Pinterest and Blue Sky, you can't actually post video on there at the time of me recording this, okay? So what you can do is you can head over to Remix, and you can manually update, upload the, or add the source, upload the content, and then Remix will actually publish it for you with the correct specification, okay? Well, certainly with TikTok, okay? When it comes to Blue Sky and Pinterest, you're probably gonna have to swap out video for image at this moment in time because they don't really support it, okay? So that's basically the automation in a nutshell. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and do me a favor, subscribe to the channel before you go, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.